All right, Jesse Eisenberg, Bream Gives Me Hiccups and Other
Yeah.
Stories. Your new book. Welcome, first of all, to PBS's Book View Now.
Oh, thanks so much for having me here.
It's great to have you. The book is hilarious.
Oh, thank you.
And for anybody who's sort of followed your multi-disciplined creative career, you've been writing for a while. Tell us about some of your other writing experiences and how you led up to this book.
Yes, I've been rejected for years by various publications, and then I kind of started to find my voice. Probably about 5 years ago, and started getting published in the New Yorker and McSweeney's and other kind of short humor venues. And all of my writing, it's in this book, is kind of short fiction, but because of my background as an actor, I think they're character based rather than kind of like joke based. So you follow characters for extended periods of time, and I feel like kind of get into the emotional experience, even though probably the overall joining theme is humor.
Yeah, and there are short bursts, but you get to know the characters pretty well.
Yeah.
You're with them for 5 or 6 segments. Like the book is named after the
Right.
9-year-old restaurant critic that
Right.
goes around New York with his mom. I'm assuming it's New York. It might be another city with his mom.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious. But
Oh, thanks.
they're also just quick humor. It's different than sort of a novel-esque kind of humor.
Yeah, exactly. My favorite kind of humor to read is like I have a friend, Simon Rich, who's a great writer and writes with this kind of structure, this length, this style, content. And I was really inspired by his work. I didn't realize that you could do that. Once I discovered the New Yorker magazine and the humor section in the New Yorker, which was about 10 years ago, it opened up a world for me. I didn't realize writing could be like that you could do kind of short, funny, clever, character-based, even some kind of commentary on modern society or on socialization or on politics or something. I didn't realize that exists. And once I realized it existed, it kind of opened a world for me.
Yeah, I remember when I was younger, Steve Martin wrote Cruel Shoes, which is a really funny, short humor stuff, which totally was different than everything he was doing in his acting and in his stand-up routine. It was a totally different discipline. Do you find that writing just opens up another world of relaxation for you, or do you do it for fun, or have you wanted to be a writer and that's where you're going with it?
No, I mean, I wish it opened up relaxation. It opens up the exact opposite. It's like I write these in kind of a flurry of, anxiety, and it comes out, I guess as funny, but while it's happening.
Do you think they're funny while you're writing them?
No, I normally think things are like heartbreaking. Like I'm doing a play now that I wrote, and we're doing it uptown. No, to me it's a drama, and then audiences come and people laugh, and it's like I guess taken as a comedy. But all of my stuff is like character based, so it's like thinking about these people and kind of what I think of as dramatic circumstances. But I guess because maybe my background or culture or inclination is toward humor, it comes out maybe as funny.
Your inclination is humor, but it's really dry. I mean, everything you've done, I think of like Zombieland and some of the movies and stories. I'm laughing, but I have a feeling as you're writing it that you're not laughing at all, and
Yeah.
it's very deadpan. Everything.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah, I mean, I feel like, and I guess there's some kind of, maybe it's also like a cultural thing, like maybe like in the style of like Woody Allen, where you watch his stuff and you see that he's going through this kind of like maybe horrible situation, or maybe he's feeling horrible about the circumstances, and yet they're funny. And I think maybe it's this style of maybe Jewish, maybe that old European Jewish humor, which is, I'm not, reinventing that wheel, but I'm probably a spoke on it.
Yeah, well, Woody Allen did it really well too. I mean,
Yeah.
he was one of those people that was really great at those short, character-driven
That's right.
things too.
That's right.
Yeah. So, have you ever thought about writing a novel or going longer? You're writing the play. I want to hear more about that in a sec. But have you thought about writing something longer?
Yeah, I mean, I've written books that I will not use for anything more notable than firewood. It's so I only release. It's interesting because I have like some notoriety as an actor that if I put something out, it would probably get published by virtue of that. So I have to be maybe extra careful that I'm not kind of tempted to put something out that I feel is not good.
Yeah. So where do you turn to get that? And McSweeney's is a great place. Obviously, they're a fantastic literary site. And obviously they're going to tell you.
Yeah, I've been rejected by
that?
McSweeney's for years, so I didn't put that stuff in the book. So then the stuff that I feel is good is the stuff that there's a general consensus, whether it's from friends that I trust or family or myself. If you write something, at least in my experience, you think it's the greatest thing for the moments right after it's written, and then sleep on it, and if it's still good in the morning, maybe you can submit it somewhere. but you know, I try to have like a kind of more realistic perspective because I think I might have an advantage over other authors who are not acting in movies. You know, so I maybe have to censor myself a little more.
Talk about the play that you're working on right now. I know you're in New York. You wrote it. You're directing it too, if I understand correctly.
I don't direct. I work with different directors because I'm in it. It's hard to kind of see it, you know, so because I'm in it. So so I work with these great directors. But yeah, my current play is it's about 5 people. The focus is on kind of my character, the guy who kind of got left behind in school, and it's kind of angry guy. He's roommates with a Nepalese immigrant, Kunal Nair from The Big Bang Theory, who's also actually here at the Book Expo because he's putting out a kind of memoir. And he plays my roommate. I kind of torment him, and it's really about kind of 5 different people in New York kind of coming together and the you know what it's like to be this age and this time.
So you've written it, so you're on stage though to experience the reaction, the audience reaction to it, which is different than if you're an actor in someone else's play. You get to actually feel that.
Exactly, yeah.
And so do you make tweaks to it based on what you're seeing and happening in the audience, and are you always working on it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really irresponsible. I shouldn't do it, but I do. It's like, you know, if an audience is quiet, you know, if it doesn't play like a straight comedy, we can emphasize what's dramatic in the play. I shouldn't do that. You know, the responsible actor should. You do the same thing, which I pretty much do, but you know, you end up just maybe unconsciously like tailoring it to whatever the audience wants. Or if I find they're laughing at things that it feels maybe too much laughter, I'll try to slow it down. So you end up doing that. The last play I wrote and performed in was with the actress Vanessa Redgrave. She played the main character, and she has been acting for 70 years. She's phenomenal. She's considered like the best actress alive, and I would see that she would do it. She would like, if the audience was laughing like maybe a little too much, I'd see she would go down. And it was good, and as a writer who was also in it, I felt that she was treating it well.
That's really interesting. It's really interesting that you can think about the cadence, a writing cadence, not just a delivery cadence, but also a writing cadence.
Yeah, right. That's right.
The other, obviously, big news, and there's like this extreme excitement around the Batman vs. Superman movie that's coming to play Lex Luthor. That's totally another level of fame. I mean, there's such a fandom around that.
Right.
Are you comfortable with that? Do you like being up there? I mean, you've been in some big movies, but this is one that has a different sort of velocity to it.
Yeah, I mean, let's say like the marketing campaign behind this movie and the budget is bigger than what I've done before, but probably not dissimilar, you know, to acting in a movie where you go do the talk shows and, you know, the movie comes out and then people forget about it in a few months. You know, that's all probably similar. Having said that, I don't know because I've never been in something like this if it's any different. But as an actor, it was just another acting role and a really
without
great
hair,
one at that.
What's that? Without hair.
With less hair, yeah. But a great acting role. Like the writer of the script, he wrote these phenomenal scenes for my character. Chris Terrio, he wrote Argo. That was his first written movie, or his second. But the point is, it was just another role for me. I treated it like just another role, and it was a really great role.
As an actor who loves to write and is proficient and is writing screenplays and things, how do you think the sort of love of words and your understanding of the literary side of what you do affects what you do as an actor on a stage? Because that doesn't apply to every actor, obviously, that's out there.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think about it all the time, actually, because I think I'm doing my own play now, but there are certain parts of the play that I play with the language, you know, day to day, trying to find different parts of it. I love words. I love unusual phrasing. I love when people say things that are not cliche. In fact, a lot of the play is there are these 4 characters who are kind of well-adjusted, self-actualized people, and then my character is this kind of damaged guy, and a lot of their dialogue kind of in certain sections are kind of like cliche things, like, oh, does anybody want tea? Yeah, we'll have 2 teas. Or no, I'll have a tea. Sure, make it 2. Actually, 1 each. You know, kind of what I would say is like annoying banter, small talk. And to me, I mean, maybe I have like, it's probably so obnoxious to say this, but stuff like that, I kind of eats away at me because I feel like, well, we should say things in more unusual ways. You know, why resort to the cliches? But that's because I have a lot of time on my hands, so I could do that. I imagine if you're like a busy person.
It's a toolkit, too, that you have at your disposal because of your interest and your love of words. I mean, I think
Yeah.
to me, it adds such a deeper dimension to arts in general to be able to understand that level that we're talking, to understand that sort of nuanced element of acting.
Yeah, that's what I like.
And written part of it.
Yeah, and like all the actors in my play are so great, and they're really like articulate people, which is helpful because, you know, even when they're doing like, let's say, banter that is like, let's say, superficial banter, they're aware enough as smart, articulate actors to kind of almost be a commentary on the banter rather than just delivering it.
Right. Well, I'd love to talk longer, but Bream Gives Me Hiccups, a very funny book.
Thank you so much.
A great addition to all the other creative work that you do and do
Thanks
so
a
well.
lot.
Jesse Eisenberg, really great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us.